Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on what part of the world you're from. We're really excited that you all are here joining us today. And welcome to our Zoom chat. I'm Melanie from MJ Justice Project and the MJ Fans of New York City. And with me is also Buds, the founder of MJ Justice. And we're welcoming fans from all over the globe. And I'm really looking forward to having our special guests with us today. And let me introduce him. TJ Jackson is an actor, excuse me, not an actor. I'm giving you another career, TJ.
It's okay.
TJ Jackson is a singer, producer, and member of 3T. He's the youngest son of Tito and Dee Dee Jackson. 3T released their album Brotherhood in 1995. The album sold approximately 3 million copies worldwide. The group achieved an international hit with their debut single, Anything. 3T released several hit singles in Europe, including 24/7 and Why, which was a duet with their uncle, Michael Jackson. TJ is also, there's a lot here, TJ. You're a busy man. TJ has written, produced tracks for his aunt Janet Jackson and Bruno Mars, just to name a few. And also, TJ and his wife Frances are the hosts of the popular YouTube series and podcast, The Family Rules. In less than a year, TJ has released his debut EP, Obsession. It has a total of official 5 music videos that have garnered over 1 million views on YouTube. And last week, TJ released his latest EP, Damage. And we want to welcome you to MJ Justice Zoom Chat. Welcome, TJ.
How are you, Melanie?
I'm wonderful. I'm wonderful. We're thrilled to have you with us today. And listening, just so you know, we have fans from over 30 countries: Italy, Australia, Philippines, I see. And they're all excited to speak with you today.
Well,
Um,
I see about 10 faces, and they make me smile because I see some MJ shirts and pictures in the back. And
yeah, I'm wearing
yes, and I see a TJ sweatshirt. So I just want to, before we even get started, just thank everyone for the support of not only me, but my uncle, of course, and my family. It means so much to us. Um, and I think it's important to keep saying it to you so that you guys really understand how much you mean to us.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
That's very
Well,
nice. Thank you.
you mean so much in your family. We're here just to support you, certainly in your endeavors, but your family as well. So thank you for joining us. I want to start and talk about your EP Damage. And I
Yes.
want to ask you about producing and working on that EP during a pandemic. What were some of the challenges?
So, actually, a lot of it was already pre-recorded and almost finished prior to the pandemic starting. Last night was done. It was actually supposed to be my very first single, so nothing really changed on last night. Senseless Drama was done a good year and a half ago as well. And then let's see, Good Time, the bulk of it was finished about the same time, a little over a year ago. I did go to Nashville in August to finish that one. And that was in a way scary for me because I had already canceled the June trip I was supposed to go because of the pandemic. And, I didn't want to, with all my family, with the kids and my cousins that I'm seeing on a daily basis, I didn't want to put them at risk.
Sure.
But I finally talked to someone, a professional, who said I would be okay in the plane, and just took every, precautionary measure I could with sanitizers and wipes and just being extra careful because I've seen what this COVID can do to people. And I just want to be careful not to bring it home to my family, but also to keep the spread going. I feel so much real quick for the nurses and those who are dealing on a daily basis with this pandemic, and have been doing so for 8 months
Yeah.
nonstop. They're the heroes, and I feel that if we all can wear masks and just make their jobs a little easier, we'd be in a better position.
I hear you. I hear you. I see people. Well, there are a lot of people wearing masks, but there are a lot of people that are not.
Yeah,
And there's a lot of people who are getting very sick. I've lost 2 people to
I'm
the
sorry.
pandemic.
I'm
Here, thank
sorry.
you.
It
And It's just
It's
being smart and safe.
it please. I have several fans who either have it and several more that have lost family.
Mhm.
You know, whether it's their mother or niece or whatever it is, and it's heartbreaking
Yeah,
because obviously we didn't ask for this pandemic, but it's here, so we have to do the best we can as
right.
a collective unit to make sure we're doing our job and ending it as soon as possible.
Definitely, definitely. Now, TJ, last week I heard an interview that you did, and you said something about a surprise to announce. Do you remember that?
Well,
And can you announce it now? Because we're all waiting.
well, truthfully, I have so many surprises coming up very shortly, so I don't know which one I was referring to. But I can say this, and I will say this since you asked.
Thank you.
Um, in a short time, I'm releasing CDs of my EPs. I don't want to say exactly when because the truth of the matter is that the manufacturer is backed up because of COVID,
Mhm.
and I don't want to put all my fans in the same situation I did with the Insomnia vinyl, where they're 2 months ago they ordered it and they're all waiting. So I'm trying to hold off on that announcement until I actually receive them, so I can get them to those who order it immediately. Um, so that's why I was holding off on it. But you asked, and that is going to be coming hopefully soon.
Well, that's exciting news. We're looking forward to that. And even if it takes a little while, because we understand with the pandemic.
Yes, thank you.
I want to ask you, you certainly come from a superstar musical family. Was there any pressure on you to establish your own identity and sound?
That's a good question. First of all, I owe everything to my family, my uncle, my father, my grandmother, my mother, um, especially musically on the whole family, the Jackson side. They just they were so important in my life. They changed the way I heard music and the way I handled myself with music, and they always encouraged me. I always say, well, not always, but I've said many times that during our darkest time, I have very visual memories of my Uncle Jermaine, saying, I just got back from Europe. They're waiting for you. They love you. And this is at a time where mentally I am very distraught and not even thinking on those wavelengths. So when you have family members that come to you and remind you and encourage you to continue on, I owe so much. And that's not even a musical inspiration. That's just being an uncle. As far as musically as a solo artist, I went through a battle because I grew up, mimicking my family and wanting to be like my family.
Mhm.
So there was a time where I would do a song or record something and I wouldn't release it because I felt maybe people thought I was trying to be this person or trying to be that person.
Sure.
And it played with my mind. And it wasn't until I think I matured a bit, and that in combination with seeing other great R&B artists from The Weeknd to Chris Brown and Usher and even more that embraced it and utilized their inspiration and put it in their art, that I said, if they can do it, why can't I do it? And it
Exactly.
changed everything for me. And now it's very freeing because now when I go in the studio or if I'm just driving and re-listening to my music, if an idea pops up, no matter where it's coming from, I'll do it. I don't have that. Perfect example is the I Don't Deserve This, one of my songs. At the very end of it, um the why you want to go and do that, that's Janet, and I wouldn't have put that in 5 to 10 to 15 years ago, but it's what I hear, it's what I feel, and I know that another artist would do it, and I think she would be happy another artist paid homage. So I just had to get out of my own head and my own space to just let myself do what I felt the song needed.
Well, I think it makes it authentic to you and who you are and your sound. So we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Um, you're I know you worked in the studio with your Uncle Michael. Are there any specific lessons that you learned about working in the studio with him?
I learned. Oh man, I I
I
I
know it's
learned
a
so
lot.
much
Yeah.
from him. I think I think just the humility. Uh, that was that's probably one.
Hmm.
It's just I remember when we sang when we were finishing Y, and we in his version before we did our version, it was pretty much the same thing. We just tried to sound and mimic him as much as we could. And then the one thing we did do was the very end, the last
Yeah.
the last four lines. And I remember when he sang his, he genuinely asked, "Was it what we wanted?
Hmm.
And was it what we heard?" And it was perfect. But it just reminded me that no matter how big you are, there's power in being humility, being humble, and always trying to please others. And it was who he was.
Yeah.
I've heard a
And
lot of people who are.
it's so powerful to me because it was so rare at the same time in the industry. I worked with a
Yes.
lot of people who've achieved a lot, and even though I wouldn't say they were highly egotistical. It's just that they still didn't have the humility he had.
Hmm.
And when you're a nephew of that person, and you are in and out of very many different scenarios with that person, you feel it,
Hmm.
and you see it, and I knew he was a huge pop star. I knew that. But all the times he told me to be humble and be gracious, that was like the perfect example of it. Because if there was a chance for him not to be humble, it was there,
Yeah.
and yeah. So I learned I'll always be in debt to him, and always have his back, and always just love him.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, we
And
will too. We will
what
too.
did
Thank
you
you.
have a question you wanted to
Yeah,
ask
I was
me?
just going to say that I've read a lot of things and a lot of quotes from other people who worked with him, and they all said the same thing, that he was the biggest thing, but he was thank you and please and can you do this for me, and softly speaking, not yelling and not being, you know, the big shot. He was very kind. So I've heard that a lot. So it's
Yeah.
not lost on anybody. They knew it.
Yeah. Thank
He's a
you.
good soul.
Beautiful. And he was just one of a kind. He really was. And I just don't mean as a performer. I mean as a human and as a person.
Yeah.
And yeah, I have many stories that run through my head where I think about that and just think and just reminisce on how he handled situations, and how he responded to situations that were so much different than what anyone else would do, or what could be predicted. Um, you can ask him a question about anything, and the answer you would get would often surprise you and make you think, but make a lot of sense.
Hmm.
And he just was a different being.
Yes.
Yeah, certainly the love that you have for him comes across. So, and we feel that. I appreciate you sharing that with us right now. I also follow you on social media, and I'm very impressed by the fact that you respond out of love most of the
Yeah,
time
yeah.
when you're talking to people. Why is that important to you?
It's because I feel I believe you can make a difference no matter who you are, no matter how many followers you have, or no matter I don't know. I just feel like our world's in a tug and pull, and I feel in a way a duty, and it feels right to just spread love. So I everything, honestly, everything I post, if it's not to do with my music or marketing for my music, I try to think of a big picture and just try to make the world a better place for our future.
Mhm.
That's what drives me. I mean, and there's some times where I may attack things or people, and it's simply it's not to change for me. It's truthfully so that all our kids and our grandkids can have a more, unified and equal and more, just a more together future. I believe in that. And I believe in humanity. I believe, I think oftentimes our divisiveness comes from misunderstanding.
Mhm.
And that's one thing that I love about social media. I think it opens dialogues and it exposes you to different viewpoints.
Sure.
So I'm trying to utilize that for the benefits of it and embrace it and just try to carry healthy conversations and healthy vantage points. And I don't always get it right, but I've figured and decided to at least try in my own way. So that's what I try to do on all my social platforms. And it's hard because I'm doing a lot of stuff, so it's hard to always stay on top of things. But I think life will slow down for me in 5 years or so, and I feel I'll even embrace that role more.
Well, one of the times I think you got it absolutely right on Twitter, and as fans, we all applauded you. Is when you talked about Oprah. I think that was last week. Why?
Yeah,
Why did you do that, and why did you feel necessary?
it's it's funny because first of all, I thought it was necessary because it's so wrong. It's so wrong. You guys see one side, and being in the inside, it's even more wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because and
it's
I could speak
family.
freely about this, and I could feel okay speaking about it. That's one of my biggest issues with Hollywood and LA, and in a way, the entertainment industry. It can suck you up to the point where you lose sense of what's right and wrong, and you care more about ratings or not upsetting your friends or peers. For instance, I'm happy that The Weeknd posted yesterday what he posted
Mhm.
Yes.
about the Grammys being corrupt and
Mhm.
whether it's real or not. I have my opinions, but whether you think it's real, I just like that they are on notice
Yeah.
and they can't just get away blindly doing, and I don't mean just the Grammys, but companies and people can't just get away just doing whatever they want and time just, making it disappear. People are getting held accountable when they're not showing fairness. And for me, it was hard. I went back and forth on whether to
Mhm.
post or tweet it. And I usually have like a 30-second to a minute rule where I think and I just stop and think about something else. And if I still feel I should post it and I remember the mindset when I posted it, I was like, no, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of because again I have to hear certain business things and even for me if I go on pitches for TV shows or ideas I may have, these names come up and I don't think people realize it, but a lot of these from HBO to Oprah and her own. So when I do things or want to present things or maybe do things, it's like these companies are automatically out,
Yeah.
for the most part. It's just I don't know. I just feel more close to all these things and people. So I just felt what she did was dirty,
Mhm.
and she didn't care about giving us a voice. And here's the thing. I think obviously the little show she did in conjunction with that movie I'm gonna
Mhm.
call.
Yeah.
Um, it's and she tries to get away with it by not saying my uncle's name and not but you could be sly. It's the timing, it's the people, it's the fact that you don't give a flip side, and that just doesn't sit well with me. She knows what she's doing. She's been in the industry,
For
as
a
long
long
or
time.
longer than I've been alive,
Mhm.
Right.
and they know what they're doing. They're just, they're slick with it.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you speaking out about it and know that the fans certainly support you and your family when you have, because it's important that the truth is out there. Have you
Thank
seen
you.
the documentary Square One?
I have not.
Okay, you need to watch it.
And I've heard it was great. I've heard many say I need to watch it. So anyone who's watching this, please don't do what I said and go watch it because I know it's great
Mm.
and I will watch it. I just, I think for me, um, I just haven't gotten around to it because I know my uncle,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And I know a lot, and I haven't seen it. So I can't really tell you. I could be way off base, but I'm sure a lot of the things that are being talked about and what's being proven, I know.
Mhm.
And I would hear it from him. He would explain it out of frustration. It's like, would
Sure.
they do this if that was the case? So I already know. Um, but I will watch it, I promise, because I know how great it is. I've heard wonderful things about it. And again, I encourage everyone who's watching this, if you haven't watched it, please watch it. Taj has watched it. He said it was great. And I trust my brother and I
Yeah,
trust all you fans. So go watch it if you are just stumbling on this interview.
I agree. I agree. But did you have a question that you wanted to ask TJ?
Well, I have my own, but I better ask some fans first.
Okay.
I'll put them above me. This is from Bianca. She said, and I kind of know the answer to this myself, but I'll ask you anyway. She said, how do you feel when you see people dancing in the streets for change when they're protesting and they're using your Uncle Michael's music?
I feel great. I feel great. I think he would be very happy and proud and hmm, I could see, like, if we there's I can't pinpoint the examples, but he would always, from inside a car ride or whatever, he'd always point out kids that were dancing, or
Mhm.
people that were mimicking him and just
Right.
loving it. So the fact that people are still inspired by him and dancing to his music, he'd be so proud. And it's not necessarily because it's him. I think, truthfully, I feel he's just happy to bring people into that place of freedom and
Mm-hmm.
that happiness, and where they can lose their mind and be something else. He got a kick out of that. And I was just telling someone else yesterday that when we would go to the hospital with him, and he would pay respects to those who were struggling, I truly feel his goal was just to relieve them and to put their mind somewhere else, and in a place of freedom and happiness, and just let time stop and bring joy for them. And I think that sensation, when people experience that, was what he got high off of, what he loved.
Yeah.
And when people dance and channel him, or really anything that's bringing them pleasure, he loved it.
Yeah.
But the messages of his music are very profound, and that is why they keep coming around whenever there's
That's
protesting
right.
against racism
That's
or
right.
whatever the issue is, because they're he really had a powerful message. And sometimes the beat was so good that people weren't even listening until later, and then they started listening to the lyrics, and they're like, "Whoa, this guy was
That's
awake.
right.
He was woke."
And you know what it is? I think what and I always say I think, because I want to respect the fact that he wouldn't be able to correct me.
Right, right.
But I strongly feel he just saw things from a historical perspective. Even things I would ask him or talk about, or things that I wouldn't understand, or you know he could break it down from a long point of view. It was as if he saw, studied all of history and knew
Yes.
where we were going. I truly feel that. And I think that's what gave him that ability to know where we are going. He was ahead of his time in not just the arts, but really what he would predict what would happen. um from the whole Marvel universe, he would
Mhm.
say there needs to be superheroes are made. I'll tell you guys this, as he didn't play video games, but he loved certain games. And I'm sharing this with you because you all are big fans. But my brothers and I, we play games, and when, like, the news, when PlayStation came out, old school PlayStation, we'd have it, or we'd go and get the games and we play, and he just watch. And it's not that, like, for instance, if we played Street Fighter, or a game like that, you know he would just watch. and then his mind would go away, and then when you like lose and you have to pick your characters and you have to pick what they wear, his attention would go back up. That's what he was interested in, and like what this character was wearing and what color looked good on them and their poses, and all of the pre stuff is what got him excited. And then when we start fighting, he just nothing, and then after 5 minutes of who's next on the game, Taj or Taryll, and then boom, his mind was there. He said, that is cool. Wear that, Applehead, so that's what he was, just different,
Yeah.
in a beautiful, cool way.
Yeah.
That's my Uncle Michael.
Yeah. That was one of that kind of segues into one of my questions, because a lot of people who went on tour with him too, and also a notable like Kobe, said that he told them to read books, and he pushed education and knowledge. And I think maybe
Yeah.
all those volumes in Neverland, he was reading all of them. So maybe
He
that's why he
was.
could project the future, and he was seeing it from a historical point of view.
He
So did he do that with you too?
Oh, he changed my life. Changed my life. I was always a solid student. I cared about my grades. My mother made sure of that. But I despised reading. I did not like reading. And we went to many places with my uncle. We went to toy stores and record stores, and we'd go to bookstores, and the other ones I was good. I knew how to get toys, I knew how to get CDs, I knew how to do all that. But books, it
Right.
was like, how much longer are we going to be here, kind of thing. And I remember in New York, he was like, Applehead, you need to start reading. You gotta get it going. And I was like, I don't like reading. It's boring to me. You just haven't found the right book. He goes, go look around and read one page. Go in the middle, read a page. If it keeps you pulled in, then maybe that's the book. If it doesn't, then close it and go to the next book. And I'll never forget it. That very first book I got in New York was Awaken the Giant Within from Tony Robbins. And it came to me at an important time in my life, and ever since then I've been an avid reader, and so was he, to the point where we'd exchange books and ideas, and have you read this book yet, until he passed. And it was my connection with him was books, and I give him all the credit because he gave me the love for reading. And I still try to do my part and pay it forward with obviously my kids, but with my cousins. And it's cool because they're all getting into it. And those are the kind of things that make me happy, because I truthfully just want to do what I feel he'd want them to be like, and to do. And reading is something I know for a fact he'd want them all over. And um, so I try to do my job. And every Christmas, I give everyone a book,
Yeah.
the same book. It's like my book of the year. Done it for a while now, and it's cool because they're reading it more and more. And I don't know where I got there, but the power of reading came from him, and it showed in who he was.
Yeah,
I have a
that's
question
important.
from a fan from India. Debbie wants to know, what are your fondest memories of your grandfather, Joe Jackson? And has he given you any advice that you still carry with you today? Any motivational advice?
For my grandfather, right?
Yes, your grandfather, Joe.
um I'll start it this way. I I he I think as I gotten older, I really understand and respect him more and more. I've been to Gary, Indiana many times. It's not the easiest place to raise a family, saying the least. And I commend him for what he was able to do. I think the fact that my grandmother, that combination is the reason why our family was able to do what we did.
Hmm.
We get that love from my grandmother, but we get the strength, and I don't want to say just the drive, but the desire to be the absolute best, and to not let anyone slow us down, from my grandfather. um I think for me, some of the fondest memories, because when I was younger, he would always flick me. That's not one of my fondest memories, but he would flick us, and he had big
Yeah.
fingers, and he'd flick us as it felt like as hard as he could.
Yeah.
And it was to the point where, I would cry, and it's like, I don't want to be near him. I don't want to go cry. So, but now when you're older, you understand it was his version of keeping us tough. Where he grew up and where all his grandchildren grew up were two different worlds.
Yeah.
We grew up pampered. We grew up not having to worry about locking our doors. And I think he wanted us to be tough. And I just don't think he was able to articulate that and to express it in a way where that's comfortable for everyone else. But I never felt like he didn't love me or love any family member. Never. I just think he had a hard time processing certain things and understanding certain things. As far as my favorite memories, it had to be in the recent years, just seeing him as a grandfather. One of my children is named after him. We call her Joe, after him. And I remember, I think it was Francis who I think he said, "Who's that child right there?" And I think my wife Frances told him, "That's your granddaughter, named after you." And he's like, "Really?" And he's like, "Come, have her come here, like, come here, girl, come here." So he's like, "What's your name?" And he was just talking to her, and boom, it's like the whole thing was about strengthening her. That is what he felt his contribution to the family was. So it was like, don't take nothing from no one. And he would challenge you. And, it's like, "Do you know who I am?" And he tried to intimidate you. And when Joe didn't back down, he was like, "All right then," and smiling. And it was so cool to see, because it was like, that's how you crack him. You got to rise up to him and show you're not going to back down,
Right.
and just a beautiful, beautiful person. Not perfect, but a beautiful person who I will always respect and appreciate.
Sure.
Yeah. Of course. No
But
one's perfect.
No
Buzz,
one
did
is
you have another
perfect.
question?
Yes.
Yeah, I have another one from Red Jackson. He asked, or she, I'm not sure. Uh, what were the highs and lows of touring, and what was the funniest mishap that you had with your brothers?
There were and here's the deal. Two things are going on in my head. I'm going to answer the question, but two things are going on. I know this is a MJ community, so I always try to veer. I'm trying to make it more enjoyable for all of you. And then the second thing is, my uncle is just that influential in my life. So if I talk about him a lot, whether it's this interview or another video interview, it's strictly because that's my story.
Yeah.
But I think it was first of all, to answer that question more specifically, I think for us it was just the fact that three brothers were able to achieve their goal and dreams, and we've always wanted to be like our family. And for our first record to be able to do arena shows throughout Europe, it was a beautiful thing. It was a dream come true. And I remember forgetting my lyrics in Wembley Arena. That's probably our biggest mishap. But some of the joys of it was being on stage with my father and doing Jackson songs, and the songs that we grew up on, the songs that we rehearsed and practiced nonstop. We were able to do for our fans, and it was fun and cool. And then on top of that, to bring this answer full circle, it was just a beautiful time in my life, because we were in Europe a lot, and it was my first time spending at least extended time in Europe. And just to see all the culture and see all the things we had learned about from my uncle. He always loved Michelangelo and all the great artists. He loved them, and to be able to finally go and see their work, and then also to be in a continent and be in countries where he was also working, because we came out at the same time history was out.
Mhm.
So our paths would cross a lot, and we'd get a random call. "Are you guys in Paris?" "Yeah, we have a show." "I'm in Paris. Come here." And it was so fun. And it's like, "Okay, meet me here, and we're gonna go walk around," and it's just amazing. And again, it's not amazing because I'm walking around the streets with Michael Jackson. It's just
Yeah.
I'm walking around the streets with my favorite uncle and
Yeah.
someone
Yeah.
who's chill and fun, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was cool. You know, we had our little ribs. Oftentimes we would lose, you know, like, you know, from chart, you know, chart positions. Like
Uh-huh.
if I need you, or let's say this, if anything was number two somewhere, and Scream or You Are Not, I don't know what song was out when anything was out, but if it was number four, we would get it to him. You know, we would say someone's slipping, you know, someone needs to, we would have fun with them, and he'd hit us right back, you know. And you know, like If I Need You was number three and he was number eight, you know, from coming off of number one for
Yeah.
however
Yeah.
long.
Yeah.
um you know, we would say, you know, 3T's number two or three, Michael Jackson, like that. And he says, yeah, but it's the ending that's getting it there. You know, he would do stuff like that, and it was beautiful. It was, you know, it was fun
Yeah.
family love, you know.
Yeah.
And we owe so much to him, because if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have aspired to be as much as we could be,
Right.
especially for our first album. And we owe everything to him.
Yeah. We do too, frankly.
Mm,
I have to tell you, I have a
mm,
very strong connection with your uncle. Never met him. I never even got to see him in concert. But
mm.
I get more from his interviews than from his concerts. Like when he's
Yeah,
talking, I mean, the earlier interviews where they were asking actually pertinent questions and
yeah,
not, who he was dating and stuff. But
yeah.
you really get a lot when you just listen to what he's saying, and then of course his music is very, very inspirational too.
I'm telling you, and as I go back in time and think about my time with my uncle, I realize how special he was. And it sounds so cliche to say, and it sounds like such a, I mean, nothing close to his magic. And I don't just mean on stage or in the studio. I mean just him as a person. He was, you were just going to grow so much being in his presence.
Right.
I want to ask you a question about your cousin Paris.
Yeah,
She's got the number one album right now on the iTunes
I
alternative chart.
heard.
How proud are you of your cousin?
Incredibly proud.
Mhm.
Incredibly proud. She, I'm all about my kids, my cousins, any kid finding their passion and love, and being able to do it regardless of what comes back. And you know, one thing I always worry about, especially with youngsters going into this industry, is if they are doing it for the right reasons. Are they doing it for fame? Are you doing it for a number one? Or are you doing it because you have something to say and it's your passion? And I'm happy that she's doing her songs her way
Mhm.
and doing it from her heart and passion. She's grown so much as an artist, as she's always been a very creative girl,
Mhm.
but as a music and as a guitar player, she's grown so much, and she's still very humble with it. She's still on a quest, and to me, that is what I love and enjoy the most. You know, chart positions come and go, and awards come and go, and oftentimes you don't control that. But you know, as long as I can help her get um, a healthy understanding and a healthy process of how to do what she wants to do, then I think that's how she really wins. And that's what my goal is. So you know, I just saw her a couple days ago, and you know, and told her how proud I am. And she, you know, I try not to be, I try not to overdo it, because I don't want to be Debbie Downer or a hater, or I don't want to get mislabeled in that way. But I just want to make sure, because everyone has their ups and downs, you know, and you can't stay up forever. And sometimes that downfall, or that way down, can really affect you. And like I said, I care about her as a person
Mhm.
Right.
first, and I don't want her to be hurt, and I want her to be strong. So I'll say, I'll say things like, "I'm so proud of you. I love you. Make sure you do what you want to do, and do it from your heart," because I know how the industry is. If the industry feels there's potential in her, they will try to grab her and make her be something she's not.
Mhm.
I have faith in her as a person that she wouldn't fall for that or succumb to that. But you never know. You never know. And I don't want to take that risk, because when you find yourself on a journey not being yourself, it can get dangerous for yourself.
True.
And I don't want anyone I care for, anyone period, to be in a situation where they're not happy within. And I think so
Yeah,
Well,
that's my response.
she's been on a really serious journey. I've been watching her since day one, and she's evolved quite a bit. And I think she's a lot wiser than a lot of people her age.
Yeah.
I know she suffered. She suffered with
Yeah.
loneliness and a lot of things. So she's at a place now that I was just by listening to her music, I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
some of this is really deep. So
She's grown as a person, and she'll continue to grow, and I agree with you. I think she's well beyond her years. I think um all of my all three of them are well beyond the years, and I credit that a lot, primarily, if not all of it, to my uncle.
mhm.
He from the beginning was big on their mind. I remember, when I was first a father, he would preach, work on their mind, strengthen their mind, Applehead, and it's showing in their kids, in his kids.
Right.
They're all three of them are very smart thinkers, and I just try to do my part into making sure society doesn't affect them in the wrong way,
Yes.
and they have to be acclimated to society,
Mhm.
to live in this world, but they also can hold on to who they are, and I'm just trying to help them find that balance, and I'm
Right.
proud of them, because I feel they're getting there.
Yeah. Well, we mostly see just the elder too. We don't see
Mm,
much of him yet, but I'm sure he's
yes.
going to be like a little meteor himself. But
Yes.
yeah, it's really been wonderful watching them change and grow. I mean, I'm an older woman, obviously. I'm like a
Mm,
grandmother, so I'm like watching them both, and so proud of them. I'm not even connected to them, but I'm very proud of them. But that comes to another question of mine. When you decided to take over this guardianship, which is a major thing to do, you already had your own children,
mm,
right? You already had two of your own children,
that's
so
correct.
that was a big step for you to take. So what made you think that, or made you do that? Because that's a big
Yeah.
step. You were pretty young too, so
Yeah, well, my age didn't even play a factor. I didn't feel young, to be honest. I don't
okay.
feel old. I didn't feel young, but the age, I think for me, my uncle, I couple of things. Number one, as I said earlier, we talked parenting. The last 10 years of his life, all we talked about was parenting, and I didn't talk to him about, I mean, sometimes we discuss music or ideas, but 85% of my conversations one-on-one was parenting. And we would exchange parenting books and parenting notes, and this one's doing that, what do you think? And he was the one that he was the first one, because I had Royal when I was 21, which is very young for where we grew up.
Yeah.
I know other places it's not that young, but
Yes.
where I grew up, you're supposed to go to college at 20s,
Mhm.
get married, and then have your kids in your 30s. But I needed someone, and the only person I could confide in for that was my Uncle Michael.
Mhm.
And he encouraged me to do it. It's, change your world, Applehead. He
Mhm.
encouraged me to do it. So while Frances was 6 months pregnant, no one knew I was going to be a father except my uncle. All that time, I didn't tell my brothers and father until I didn't have a choice. And again, I'm sorry, because I don't know how. Oh yeah, the guardianship. So when he passed, I for the longest time I was always wondering, how can I pay, what can I get this guy, what gift can I give him that will bring him happiness? So sometimes I'd get him parenting books, or other books. Books was one way, but there was nothing extravagant or big I could do for him. He can get any TV he wanted. He can get any cool thing. So when he passed, for me, and I feel my brothers felt the same way, it was our way of repaying him, of thanking him and being there for him. His kids were his world. They were everything. And I remember we talked with my grandmother and basically told her, anything you need, we want to be here. We have to be here. I say this and I truly mean it. I wouldn't have been able to go on in my life if I just continued on and just ignored my cousins.
Mhm.
I wouldn't have been able to mentally be okay with that. And when I was the first, Royal is the first grandchild, great grandchild, out of all the Jacksons. So I was the first parent,
Mm.
and I was the one who always wanted to be a parent. And when my grandmother would go places, she'd always call me to stay at the house with my cousins and be there.
Mm.
And I don't know. I like I said, I wouldn't have been able to go on with my life without being there for them. And the real, sometimes people commend me for it, but I don't see it that way. I really don't. I still feel I owe my uncle. I don't feel like, I don't know. I think the one person that should be commended though are my wife and kids, because they're the ones who made that sacrifice.
Right.
We had our wonderful life prior, and we uprooted from a city we were in for over 10 years
Mm-hmm.
and moved to a whole new place where I knew of because I grew up here, but I didn't want to be here. I don't jive with the style of life here.
Right.
And I didn't want to raise my family in a place where it's very, I just didn't.
Right.
And but they sacrificed, and she was always supportive of me, and never gave me a hard time. And like I said, it's my family, so it's easy
Right.
for me to make that decision and change. But this wasn't, she couldn't have predicted that.
Right.
And what many people don't understand is there's a lot of, people will say, yeah, but you have this or you have that now. But not everyone desires that. There's kickback and negative things that come with that.
Yes.
And like I said, we are kind of people that don't need that and don't care for that. So
Mm-hmm.
it was definitely a sacrifice. And I feel most for my wife, but also for Royal. He went from me being a father that coached all his teams and was
Mm-hmm.
there at all his games, to a father that couldn't coach, or you could only make a couple days in couple games in a whole season. And I still wonder if I could have made some better decisions,
Mhm.
truthfully, but I did the best I could. And I'm trying to find a way to, I think the mistake I made was I imagined how I would handle certain things, or how I would understand. And for any parents out there, that's a no. You can't do that. Every kid is different. And I think he struggled a bit with it, and he's finally, coming to a place where he's more adjusted to sharing his father.
Mm. Well, every parent, there's no manual. We don't get a manual that this is what we don't have to get a license to become parents. So we just struggle. We just struggle through.
Yeah,
You really
yeah,
don't have any uh, situational thing to go on because it's all brand new with every child you have. But
yeah,
each phase is different. I mean, when he goes into his mid teens, then he's different. When he
yeah.
goes into his young adulthood, he'll be different. They say
I
your
mean,
child doesn't talk to you for 4 years, right?
yeah, and it's never been to the point where it's been bad. I don't want to give that, but to me, I just hurting any kid, especially my own,
Of course.
it's unsettling,
Yeah.
and I I saw a lot and experienced a lot that was wrong and was unfair. There was a prior cook and this is family.
Yeah.
I truly believe you guys are family, and you guys are the ones who deserve, don't say deserve, but I'll open up to the MJ world. But there were Prince, Paris, and Royal all went to the same high school. And I kid you not, there was a cook who would make desserts for Prince and Paris's class, but not royals.
Oh,
So when they would go to school, this is the stuff that would happen. Or when people would come in, it was like, they would get all the love,
right,
and my kids felt like second class citizens, and
right.
just managing all that. And oftentimes it's not even realized. It's not even, it's not like, I just don't think people understood. And I can explain it or try to explain it to my kids, the effect or why, but you don't really understand how it's affecting them.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that is something that is something that we're working on,
Right, right.
Sure. I have another question from Twitter. This one comes from Anne Marie. She wants to know, in times of controversy or challenges for your family, how can fans best support you and your efforts?
That's that's a tough one, because I want to say it's a tough one. The first thing is just the spreading of the truth and facts always helps. That is the primary one: sharing, liking comments that are speaking facts and the truth. um but the reason why I said it was a tough one is because I remember, growing up and in the 80s and 90s and maybe early 2000s, you know the idea of not giving attention to it, to not giving negative stories legs, to not comment on things, and to not give that the power. Some people will say crazy things or write crazy articles just so that they can get people to
Yes,
respond back and get more retweets or
yes,
whatever,
yes,
so that's the reason why it's tough. But in today's time, Taj is always on me about this, and Taj always, he's been preaching this for years. It's, if you don't say anything, then you look back in history and that will become the truth.
yeah,
Mhm.
So, I've kind of swayed his way, where I've been more on that page of, you got to attack a wrong when you see it.
yeah,
And I think with social media and things and how easy things spread, that's the approach. So anytime there's something that's negative or wrong and you have the facts or the ability to disprove it, that's the best way to support us, is
yeah,
just to do your part.
right.
And
And
it's greatly appreciated.
that's what the fans are doing. I mean, they're really stepping up. And I would always say that the Michael Jackson fan base is the biggest social media network on earth. And it is, because it's in every country and it's everywhere. And it's amazing how many people are inspired by him and what
And
he did in his life.
it's strong too, and
Yes.
and and I and it's beautiful to see, because it's, what I love about it is, even on this Zoom, I see, different nationalities,
Yes.
different ages, and it's so beautiful to see.
Yes.
And I think I think when you lead with love, that's what comes, because like I said, I think love is in all of us, and love is something that we don't see enough of. We don't see
That's
enough
right.
of our big pop. And I was saying this yesterday in a talk I had with someone. I commend my Uncle Michael, because he was one artist who would come out with a song called "Man in the Mirror" or "Heal the World,"
Mhm.
as a single, and not necessarily tied to a movement or a cause. "We Are the World" was tied to a cause,
Right.
and
Right.
but it wasn't. It was just what he felt. And I don't know many artists, even the biggest ones, who would just randomly come out with a song about love and healing and earth song.
Right.
And when those songs go number one for him, it's just amazing to me. It's as if you're, you know like they call it a handicap in golf or in sports, when you kind of penalize yourself
Hmm.
when you're competing. It's as if he understood he can get more attention or maybe more airplay or more love if he talked about something provocative, but he
Right.
wanted to do what was right and what he felt, and he talked about love and healing.
Yes.
And that's how great he was. He still won and still had a number one song.
Right.
And
You
I
mentioned
can't
Heal the
say
World.
many artists could do that.
That's right. And Heal the World, I think, was panned a lot by the music critics. They were like, this is such a silly, insipid love song. But it's still being sung, and everywhere you hear it on the YouTube, they did Zoom groups. Everybody was singing "Heal the World." Everybody.
And I will say this, one song he was super, super proud of was Earth Song. And I remember when Earth Song was doing very well, #1 in so many countries, he was happy and proud, and I don't think he was happy because he was #1 in X amount of countries. I think it was because the world was getting better and he felt the messages was getting heard and shared and accepted. And that brought him joy to know that there was love and humanity and an effort to do better in this world. And he felt part of that movement. I think that's where that joy came from.
Yeah.
And I didn't see that in any other artist, not to that level.
No, I agree. I agree. And so he was very spiritual, and that's my last question for you. Um, I noticed that on your Twitter, you're very spiritual. You say a lot of, or you quote people, or you say a lot of very deep things. Did that Were you always this way, or did you evolve after you became a father? How did you get to that spiritual plateau that you're on right now?
Spiritual or inspirational?
Both, I think.
I think you're spiritual.
Oh,
I read your TL. I'm like, whoa.
okay, cool. Well, I love that. And um I take that as a big compliment. So thank you, because I believe in spiritual health. I will never try to push a certain religion on anyone, but I do believe in spirituality and being healthy spiritually. As far as the inspirational aspect, I feel I've always been since I was 14, a reader into things that can inspire you to be the best you can be. And I would say it stemmed from that time period. I've always been that person. I'm always been a big reader, since that time in New York with my uncle. I've been a huge reader, but never fiction. I and I'm not knocking anyone who reads fiction. I think reading is great, period. But for me, it was always nonfiction, learning and improving that really moved me. And I just felt and still feel that we always can get some positivity in our life. We live in a very tough world, and especially in a difficult time. And I think by just spreading love and hope and message and can be, sometimes I think I don't do enough, to be honest. And it it can affect me, especially when I hear people going through tough times. um, but I just try to do the best I can with the platform and the ability I have, and I will always be that way. I am motivated by not so many things, just my family, my fans, and leaving a proper legacy, whether that's small, big, whatever. Just being, I want to make sure if my name comes up, it comes up in a way that inspires people to be the best they can be.
That's the way everybody should be. Actually, we should all have that in our
Yeah,
intention.
yeah, and I think, but I don't think many do, at least in the
Very true.
world I come from.
Yeah.
And I think it's they still have to grow from an understanding of the dangers of ego and how that can really set you up for difficult times.
Yeah.
And I don't just mean financially, I mean mentally and health wise. And I just think if we can all simplify the beauties of life, we will all be better. And I think a lot of people who have the ability to influence a lot, they are inspired by the wrong things, and it's easy to fall victim to that.
Yeah.
And I try to be very understanding, because sometimes you have to go through things in life to understand it for yourself.
Yeah.
I lost my mom at 16, and I truthfully, and I don't want to say this, and I have to be careful saying this, but I lost a lot of my fears when I lost my mother, and it clarified. It was obviously a hard time and made things difficult, but it also clarified a lot of things for me. And again, I owe a lot to my father, my grandmother, and my uncle Michael, because I was very vulnerable at that time. And my uncle, the way he came in and read with us, and it changed me, and it projected me back to a proper path. Because when I lost my mother, I lost everything. I didn't care about anything.
Yeah, of
I didn't.
course.
n- I went from a great student who cared and wanted to go to the best schools in the world to one that didn't even care. And he quickly was able to change that mindset for me. And I still have that same ambition he gave me, but I also still have that in a certain aspect, that lack of caring about what others may
Yeah.
think about things. So
Yeah,
I like to say I don't fall as a victim to the trappings of the dangers of ego
yeah,
and trying to be this or that for others.
yeah. I think you can be your most truest self when you don't really care too much
Yeah,
about what other think,
yeah.
what
Think
others'
about it.
opinion are.
Yeah.
And age is helping with that too.
Yeah,
I wasn't always like that, but I think as you get older, you get more comfortable, and for all the women out there, have that you're beautiful, and be you, be yourself. And I think sometimes it takes a while for them to find that confidence. And I wish there was a way, even if I can contribute to helping women, young women. I see some on here, understand that you have it. You can be everything you want to be, and don't give so much don't give so much power to the external life. It doesn't matter. What matters is you within, and keep it simple and follow your passion.
Sure.
yeah, that's very good. And let me just say that I think you picked the best wife ever.
Well, thank you.
Whenever I watch you two, it's like, oh my God, you're so in sync. It really is nice to have a mate that understands you. It's really
Thank
good.
you. And I I I I thank you. I know I got lucky in some aspects, but I do take some credit, and you want to know why?
Sure.
Because I fell in love with her as a mother.
Mm,
Yeah.
And I don't want to say I mentally planned for that, but when you I was 20 years old when we met. I would go out and I was on top of the world. And I could sense the importance of family in her from the minute we spoke, and it was so rare. When I first called Frances, I heard her kids in the background, and the way she was talking to the kids
mm,
and handling them and saying, "Come here, you want a hug? What do you want?" Just those kind of honest discussions on our very first phone call.
mm.
It told me quickly, yeah, I may be attracted to you. Yeah, there may be something, but this is what's first for me,
Right, right.
and I felt that, where I felt like a lot of, at least, possible mates or girls that I was talking to at that time would try to shun that
Mm,
or lock them out of a door just to present them
Mhm.
their best self.
mm.
Frances never did that. In fact, it was like, this is me. If you want to hang out, I completely understand, but I got kids I got to go
Right.
feed, and that was it. That told me that this her heart, and then obviously our dates and stuff confirmed it, and that told me her heart was in the right
Right.
spot. And that's what I care about. That's what matters to me, is your heart. And I can say, all these years later, she is that person I thought she was. And even though we had a kid, what, in 3 months, she blessed me by trying to have it. Yeah, I know that's quick, but I needed a child. And
Yeah.
because we first had children, but as friends.
Yeah.
And I saw how she was as a mother and said, listen, this is going to sound crazy, but you're an amazing mother, and I need a child. I have to have a child. I'm like in heat. I have to have a child. And she was like, are you kidding? Are you serious? And I was like, 100%. I promise you, we could just be friends. I love how you mother. And by then she saw how I was as a person, and as a a male figure around her kids. And she's like, fine, and we did it. And here we are. And now in proper love.
Yes.
So it all worked out. And I thank you though for saying that.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, I want to ask
Yeah.
another question about your music and going forward. What does the future hold for you, TJ?
You know, I have a lot of music that I have left in me. I went through some long periods where I couldn't create. I shouldn't say couldn't create, where I couldn't release music. And that frustration led me to times where I didn't create. And I'm just lucky and happy I refound the passion to do what I love to do. And I have so many ideas and so many plans in the future. I have a good 20 to 25 songs that are already written and almost ready to be released. But I still want to fine tune things. But I have a lot. And what is so cool and exciting for me is that I'm in a place in my mind and in my soul where I'm 100% good with the connection I have with my fans and sharing it in our way. And it's so liberating. It's so free. I think it's free for any artist, but especially any, or I should say especially a second generation Jackson who has
Mhm.
the external pressure. It just feels beautiful to not care, and to just care about the connection and how my fans are enjoying it. I truthfully do not care about charts. I don't care about Grammys. That to me, that's kind of, I don't want to say that's past, but that was the old way for me. I've been there, done that, and it wore me out. And I am in a place where I'm just doing what I feel is best for my artistic and for my fans and what feels right. And it's beautiful. It's so wonderful. And I expect myself to at least do many more years of this. I have dreams of playing and doing a record with my father, a blues record.
Mhm.
I have dreams and plans of doing a Spanish album. And I'm driven and excited to pursue that.
Are albums or touring in your future? Do you think about that as well?
I do. I
Yeah.
do. For sure. I actually have an album called Pressure. I could share that. I've shared it enough times. That was supposed to be coming out pretty much, in the now time. And then it was pushed back to the summer of 21. And now I'm going to push it back to probably the summer of 22
Mhm.
because and it's pretty much done. It's just my music is taking me somewhere else right now. And with everything that's going on, I'm feeling a different vibe than what Pressure is. Not saying I don't like it, but it's just very cool to be able to pursue what you're feeling at the moment. And yeah, touring as well. um
Well, we'll be there when you decide to tour after
yeah,
the
I'm
tour.
excited, and I have to, I want to do it at the right time in the right way. I've been asked to do shows, this way through a Zoom and by several different companies. And I still want to connect, but I want to do my shows the proper way. I don't say proper way, but the way that's truthfully interactive for people. And I intend to do like an acoustic set with some acoustic players, with storytelling and talking and connecting. That's what inspires me. And I think once Pressure comes around and the year after next is when I'll do it the traditional way with bands and all the lights. And that would be a dream as well.
Well, TJ, we really want to thank you for joining us today. This has been an amazing, a little over an hour, and we could go on and on. So we'll have to have you back. I want to encourage everyone, if you haven't listened to it, is to head over to iTunes or Spotify to check out Damage. It's an
Thank
amazing
you.
EP, and we look forward to the future and new music for you. How are you going to spend Thanksgiving before I let you go?
I'm going back and forth on that. And what's cool is this something about this is feels so like personal. So I'm just opening up and I love it. It's cool. And like I said, if someone I feel happy I'm doing it, it's with you guys. I'm going back and forth. We were supposed to do, with cousins, a little get together, but I may spend the morning, with the cousins, but then may seclude or isolate myself for safety reasons.
Sure.
I don't know exactly how we're handling it, but as of now, we're gonna have a Thanksgiving for select cousins and family here.
Gotcha. Well, I
But
think
it's not gonna be big. So
Right.
no uncles or aunts or extra cousins. It's just gonna be a very small core.
a
But
cousin.
again, like I said, I don't know if me or my family will stay.
Yeah,
Right.
gotcha. Well, we thank you again for being with us. And when your new EP comes out or album, please, we're gonna call you again and have you come
Okay.
back. Thank you, TJ.
Thank you.
Anytime, and I just want to thank you all again for supporting my uncle. It is so cool and heartwarming to know that after all this time, you all are there. And he always said it's the fans.
Yeah.
I promise you, he always said what inspired him were you and the fans and the love you guys gave as an artist. And as an artist myself, I feel that and can see it, and it's so cool. And I wish you all understood how powerful and what you guys mean to us. So
Well,
thank you.
we are here. We're not going. I'm not going anywhere until I'm off this earth. I'm not
it,
going anywhere.
it's beautiful. I mean, truthfully, your smiles and I see Charlotte with her shirt and the hoodie or the sweater. I
Mhm.
see the joy my uncle gives, and that is everything. That is so empowering for an artist. And like, Martina wearing my hoodie, that does everything for me. I'll take that over hearing a news of something great, and it's so good to feel that.
You're
It's
getting a lot of
beautiful.
hearts and thank yous in the chat, so they're
Okay.
all sending you lots of love back.
Truthfully, on behalf of my entire family, thank you, and we love you.
And we love you right back. So